today's lesson. Beauty can be a blessing, but in a small-minded world, it becomes a curse. Welcome back to Vixen Cinema. I am your host, Abby. I know you're thinking, Abby, are you dropping the character? And I am for now. The character was me anyways. You know, these are early episodes. I'm playing. I'm experimenting. I'm seeing what works. Work with me. This is a show where we celebrate the wickedest women in cinema because sometimes wickedness is simply the refusal to be what others demand of you. So grab a glass of wine and sit back as we see what real life lessons we can learn from today's Vixen. Today we will be examining the 2000 Italian film Malèna, directed by Giuseppe Tornatore. I think I almost had it. Wait, Giuseppe Tornatore. Got it. And starring the breathtaking Monica Bellucci. Set in World War II Sicily, this film exposes the hypocrisy of a society that both worships and punishes female beauty. So enough talking, let's dive right in. Meet our vixen, Malèna, moving to her husband's small town only with her deaf father. The entire town watches her every move, including our narrator, Renato. Renato is a 13-year-old boy who falls in love with Malèna at first sight. He instantly becomes obsessed with Malèna, following her around town, but he's not alone. Her extraordinary beauty makes her an instant object of desire for the men of the town and hatred for the women. Everyone in town seems infatuated by Malèna in one way or another. When alone, Renato begins fantasizing about Malèna. Pause. There are many things I am going to ignore in this movie because of the time the film was created. The sexual tension in this movie between a minor and an adult is one of those things. This was a time when woke culture unfortunately didn't exist, because being woke is good. I know they said it was bad, but it's actually good. Anyways, shortly after arriving, Malèna's husband, who is a high-ranking soldier, is deployed to Africa. Where in Africa? I hate when movies do this because it's lazy. Please name the country. Left alone in this small town, Malèna's deaf father, who teaches at Renato's school, is her only company.
Non ne so, me la posso fottere a vostra figlia Malèna.
Va bene, fa presto però.
Meanwhile, the townspeople can't keep Malèna's name out of their mouths. The men of the town act like disgusting animals when she walks through the town, and the women can't stand the sight of her.
Mio figlio dice che pare finta. Mio marito non la toccherebbe manco con un dito.
With her husband gone and her father barely making a living, Malèna attempts to find a job. But the women of the town are convinced that she wants their men, and instead of checking their men, they take out all their anger and frustration and insecurities on Malèna, ostracizing her every chance they get. Pause. Let's talk about this. Pretty privilege is one thing, but I actually think that Malèna's true superpower isn't just her beauty or grace. It's the fact that she unapologetically plays up her beauty that pisses them off. It would be one thing if she showed up in the same rags they have on. In their minds, they feel like she's showing off. If her husband is not in town, then who is she dressing up for? Herself. Malèna is a perfect example of the infinity aura that grace gives you. Malèna is not the first bad bitch in this town. There is also the town's sex worker. Notice how the women are not threatened by her. Malèna, on the other hand, pisses them off because they are convinced that she is dressing up her beauty to steal their men. So why is she pretending like she's
Io
not?
ogni giorno al cinema lettorio si arrangia che piccerette. Fotte, Dio perdona a tutte.
Male-centered women who do everything for a male's attention cannot fathom the idea that somebody would want to look nice for themselves. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, while all the men in the town continue to lose their minds, Renato becomes increasingly possessive of Malèna, even though she has yet to make eye contact with him. Honestly, she has yet to make eye contact with anybody in that town. She kind of walks with her head down, and I believe the film does this to show us that her beauty is not something she wields because of how threatened people are by it. Vixens, lesson 1. Let them think what they want. Nothing pisses off jealous women more than when you don't bend into the picture they paint of you. They want you to be a bitch, so if you act nice, then you must either be fake or stupid. They want you to be a whore, and if you're not, then you must be lying or too self-righteous. Jealous women are very good at projecting their own insecurities onto you. I truly believe you have to own whatever superpower you have. People will have a story that they write about you in their head, and one of the biggest lessons I have had to learn is stop trying to rewrite that story. That's the people pleaser in you that still cares. Pay them dust. Let them think what they want, because the moment you try to fix that image of yourself in their heads, that is the moment you give them your power. They get off on thinking that their opinion is important to you. It's not. I almost forgot we were watching a movie. Back to the movie. Meanwhile, our Vixen receives some bad news that her husband was killed in the war.
E alla sua sposa Maddalena, che affranta dal dolore, purtroppo non è qui con noi.
Now, without a man to claim her, Malèna's beauty becomes even more threatening to the social order. She's no longer someone's wife, she's a possibility. As Malèna mourns his death, the men of the town seize their opportunity to strike. Meanwhile, Renato is still having fantasies about her. This scene pisses me off because this is why I hate movies written by men sometimes. Imagine losing your husband and the whole story focuses on some little boy's fantasy. Anyways, Renato may be obsessed with Malèna, but he is not the only one. The town's dentist, who is married, by the way, is now convinced that Malèna is the only woman he wants. Her beauty also draws the attention of a high-ranking lieutenant. And unlike the dentist, Malèna actually seems to like him in return. Even though Malèna made it clear to the dentist that she's not interested, he doesn't give up his pursuit. In fact, he showed up at her house at night and gets into a fight with the lieutenant she's currently dating. This misunderstanding confirms to the town that Malèna is in fact the whore that they say she is, leading to the dentist's wife suing Malèna, claiming infidelity. At this point, the whole town has completely turned against Malèna. Even her father doesn't take her side. Malèna maintains her innocence, claiming that she has no relationship with the town's dentist and was dating the lieutenant.
È stato trasferito in Albania.
Our Vixen finds out that the incident outside of her home led to him being transferred to another city. Losing her new lover and one of her last protectors in this town. But on a brighter note, her new champion, the town's bachelor, Yamahama, and her lawyer comes to her defense.
Ecco la sua colpa, la bellezza, e da qui la invidia, da qui la menzogna, da qui la ignominia.
Facts. But after winning the case against her, her lawyer wants a different form of payment, sending our stalker, Renato, into a deep depression. Soon after, the lawyer ends up proposing to Malèna, and not having many eligible bachelors left, she ends up accepting his proposal. But due to all the gossiping about her and her now terrible reputation, his mother refused the proposal, leading to another heartbreak. I do believe the only man outside of her husband that she was starting to like was the lieutenant. This lawyer was somebody she needed to survive, so it was no real loss. Meanwhile, the war is still going on, and a bombing of the city kills a lot of people, including her father and her last protector. Now, with no family left, no job because no one will hire her, no money, and no food, Malèna is being pressured by the townsmen to give up her self-respect for a free meal. But she decides if she's going to have to sleep with men for some chump change, then she might as well aim for the top. Now that is a true vixen. See, the vixen is coming out, walking for once with her head up high, taking power of her sexuality, taking power of her beauty, taking power of the story people write about her, and finally making eye contact. On this day, Malèna decides to write her own story in order to survive. If a Madonna is what they want, then a Madonna is what they'll get. Sadly, her new life includes dates with Nazis and a friendship with the town's only other sex worker. And Renato is not taking this transformation very lightly. Pause. Let's talk about this. Malèna becomes a sex worker to survive because she is literally starving during the war. But her transformation from an untouchable beauty to a fallen woman only intensifies the town's cruelty towards her. I think Monica Bellucci did an incredible job because she was able to convey through her performance that this isn't liberation. Malèna doesn't become a prostitute to embrace her sexuality. She does it because the town has already decided that's what she is and gave her no other options. Meanwhile, looks like the innocent Saint Mary that Renato painted of Malèna in his head no longer exists. For him to be deeply depressed, and his father takes notice, taking him to a whorehouse to live out his fantasy. These are the annoying parts of the movie that I mentioned that I'm just going to ignore. Meanwhile, the war finally comes to an end and the Nazis are driven out, taking Malèna's protection with them. In the midst of all this chaos, the women of the town sees this as the perfect opportunity to finally take revenge on Malèna by dragging her out by her hair, stripping her naked, and beating the shit out of her. I need you to notice that not one man who lusted after her came to her protection. Vixens, lesson 2. Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. Malèna made the mistake of thinking the men that lust after her will protect her. But like I always say, men are trash. Especially the ones that sexualize women. Do not let your guard down when you're with a man who only sees you as a sex object, because men like that will always let you down when you really need them. Just like they said in the Players Club.
That money, girl. Don't let it make you.
Yeah, Personally, if I was her, I would have used my relationships with the captains to get a little intel on when they think the war is going to be over, so I could have my box ready to be out that bitch. Because being innocent and naive sometimes will only get you dragged through the middle of the streets. When you are surrounded by haters, you gotta sleep with one eye open. You can't just be sleeping comfortably. Anyways, after barely surviving that brutal drag session, Malèna leaves the town, and even with all that she went through, our Vixen is still stunning, still graceful, and still worthy. After mourning the loss of Malèna, Ronaldo, who never actually spoke to our Vixen, finally moves on. But the story is not over just yet, because Nino, Malèna's husband, is actually still alive and returns to this wicked hometown of his, looking for his wife.
Fatti una bella passeggiata per i bordelli della Sicilia. E forse la trovi a quella puttanazza di tua moglie.
But no one will tell him what happened. No one except Ronaldo, who writes him a letter and tells him the sad story of what happened to his wife. With this information, he leaves the town to go find her. 1 year later. The war is over, things have settled down, and seems like life is back to normal in this one-horse town. Guess who the fuck comes back in town? That's right, our baddie. And even though she's in humble clothing, she's still a bad bitch. Why do I always drink red wine? I don't know. Excuse me. Let me finish the story with some class, okay? But now that she's a little older, her hair a little bit shorter, and in more humble clothing, seems like she's less of a threat to the hags of the town.
Posso stare in pace? Lei si disse, Malèna. Però qualche ruga attorno agli occhi ce l'ha. Pure ingrassata, mi pare. Si rompe, ma non come una volta.
And some probably feel a little bit ashamed of what they did to her.
Buongiorno, signora Scordia. Buongiorno, Malèna. Chi c'è sta pomodori? Una santina.
Finally, now that they feel like they've humbled her, can now embrace her into their community.
Signora, ce lo porto, magari dopo se ne parla. Grazie, buongiorno.
Anyways, our stalker finally has the courage to talk to her, and that's the end of his story.
Signora Malèna.
Great. And that's the movie. This film is so interesting because it reveals that beauty can be powerful, but can also be a prison. She's not using her beauty is using her. Malèna never owns her power, because to her, it's not power at all. It's isolation. Society's relationship with beauty is fundamentally hypocritical. They will punish you for having it and punish you for losing it. In my opinion, the women in this town don't hate Malèna because she's just beautiful. They hate Malèna because her beauty exposes their husband's disloyalty and their own insecurities. And not to make this about me, but I am going to make it about me. Nothing society hates more than a beautiful, confident black woman. I said what I said. Especially if you're nice or kind. And do you want to know who's a perfect example of this? No, I am not going to say me. Beyonce. Am I wrong? When you are beautiful and intelligent and dignified like Malèna was, it confuses them. It pisses them off because they would rather you be a villain than a victim. Malèna's transformation actually gave her a weird form of acceptance. As a prostitute, she finally made sense to them. They still hated her, but now they understood her because she fulfilled the role they created for her. So sad. This film received mixed reviews upon release, with critics dismissing it as male fantasy, as they should, because it was, with the critics giving it 54% on Rotten Tomatoes and the audience giving it 84%. I would rate this movie about 59% because I just wished it focused on Malèna's story outside of the eyes of a 13-year-old boy, because half of the movie was him fantasizing about her and jerking off to her. If we can go back and just reshoot this and just take half of those scenes out. First of all, why wasn't it just like one fantasy? There were so many fantasies. Imagine if we got to know Malèna outside of the male gaze. How much impactful her story would have been. Anyways, that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed watching that because I always enjoy making it. I will be back with more Vixen tales, but in the meantime, hit like and follow for more. Before I go, I want you to remember, true power isn't in being desired, but in being unapologetically yourself, whether they like it or not. Until next time, darlings, do try to stay alive. Until then.